Hello, everybody. Solar Citizens acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work. And I'm joining you from Bidjigal land in the Eora Nation and honour the custodian of the lands from wherever you are joining from today. We all pay our deepest respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, including elders past, present, and emerging, and we recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. We acknowledge the long-standing and continuing leadership of First Nations people in caring for country and protecting country and fighting for a safe climate for current and future generations. My name is Heidi Lee Douglas. I'm the CEO of Solar Citizens. I've worked for many years as an environment and clean energy campaigner and also as an advocacy filmmaker, and I've led Solar Citizens since 2022. Solar Citizens is an independent charity. We've been around for 16 years working to secure an Australia powered by affordable clean energy. Our mission is to champion a democratic, people-powered energy system that cuts energy bills, reduces carbon emissions, and drives Australia to be a global leader in the energy transition. And amongst an energy war right now, these things are only more relevant. We aim to help secure the doubling of rooftop solar backed by storage across Australia by 2035. We welcome you all and thank you for joining this webinar, where we will share with you our consultations with renters and landlords to put forward three policies we are now actively campaigning on that we also believe have the best chance of really delivering solar for renters on at large at scale, whether they live and you live in an house or an apartment. We will hear directly from a renter tonight about their difficulties getting clean energy and just getting affordable energy bills. And we'll hear also from a landlord about what it takes to install solar on a rental property. I'm also really pleased to be joined by Rathana Chea, CEO of Multicultural Leadership Australia. He's an amazing advocate for the need for all Australians to equally benefit from access to clean, affordable energy. And I'm really pleased also to be joined by the Smart Energy Council's Chief Advocacy Officer, David McElrea. And he'll be talking about how we can work with the renewable energy industry to solve solar for renters. And after that, to top it off, we'll propose an exciting immediate action that we can all take together tonight to help drive this campaign into the eyes and earballs of the Treasurer and the Expenditure Review Committee. So first off, though, I want to introduce you to my just delightful colleague, Talia Munro. She's our community organizer and she has a superpower for connecting with people and sharing her passion for the benefits of clean energy. Before joining Solar Citizens, Talia worked with people with disabilities, led youth educational programs, and has university qualifications in sustainability. She's also spent time volunteering in Nepal and in Australia, where she developed a love of bringing people together to learn, grow, and take action. So, Talia, tell me about your earliest encounter with rooftop solar and how that impacts you now.
Thank you so much, Heidi. So, when I was younger, my family moved to Hong Kong for my dad's work. And while over there, I actually learned about renewable energy when I was just 8 years old. So, on a big poster, we got to draw our dream home if we had infinite money. And mine was huge. It had 4 stories with solar panels covering the roof as well as the whole outside of the house. I had wind turbines in my backyard and hydropower from the river outside my home. And I remember so clearly thinking that this would be my home. Although I know 8-year-old me would be so sad and disappointed to hear how far this is from reality, that I can't even get access to solar. Through primary school and high school, my generation was taught a lot about climate change and was consistently told by teachers and any other adults around us that it was our responsibility to fix it. So why is it now that after growing up with this weight in our shoulders, that we are predominantly locked out of solar? And it just makes me so frustrated. And I want to show others that even if we can't put solar on our own roofs right now, we can still share stories and come together to create change.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing, Talia. It's really moving to hear from you. And it's the reason we all get up every day in the morning at Solar Citizens and keep pushing for energy access and energy equity. So That's a great synopsis of what are the issues that your generation and many people are still dealing with. I'm sure most of you already know that Australia leads the world in rooftop solar uptake per capita. We have the latest Australian Clean Energy Regulator figures with us. There's over 4.3 million homes. That's 4.3 million homes with rooftop solar. We are certainly a sun-loving nation. And thanks to the successful advocacy by solar citizens and others like the Smart Energy Council, the Albanese government's battery rebate, the Cheaper Home Batteries program, has boosted home battery uptake to over 270,000 batteries already. That's of today. We are the only country in the world to introduce a federal home battery rebate. So we're world leaders in rooftop solar uptake. We're world leaders in battery uptake. But unfortunately, we are not world leaders when it comes to delivering solar for renters. That's frustrating for all of you who are renters and who live in apartments, all of you residents on this webinar who are still locked out, because the fact is real that you are being left behind. About 1 in 3 homes in Australia are rented. That's about 3 million homes that are on average, locked out of annual savings of $1,400 a year. That's a big blow to your hip pocket. 2 million of these freestanding homes could support rooftop solar and batteries, and that would add an additional 12 gigawatts of energy into our energy system that would enable us to move away from dirty coal and gas power. Nearly half of the current rooftop solar generated of 28 gigawatts could be replicated again if we unlock solar for renters. So we're going to get to the issues and opportunities for renters a bit later. But first, we're going to hear from Dale. Dale is someone who's living with the reality of being locked out of rooftop solar as a renter. He's a mid-20s in the beautiful area of southern Sydney with 3 housemates. And while sharing helps manage rental costs, Dale has been saying that the high energy bills remain a constant challenge, as well as trying to keep his house cool in summer and warm in winter. Welcome, Dale. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your story tonight.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Dale, can you tell me a little bit about why it is hard to heat or cool your home specifically?
Yeah, sure. So we have quite a large house that I share with 3 other housemates, and it has a separate studio out the back. The house is set up so we actually have no fly screens on any of the doors, and so therefore it makes it really hard to cool down the house without using air conditioning. Um, in the studio at the back, we can get away with it because it's quite a small space, but in the bigger areas of the main house, like the living room and kitchen, um, they're just way too big, and running an air conditioner in there would just cost way too much. So we choose not to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. So, what kinds of energy solutions would you ideally like to have to better afford you to live comfortably and reduce your energy bill?
Yeah, so obviously, if we had something like solar, it could definitely support having aircon and those other luxuries on all day. But also having something like a updated smart meter, both now and in the past, previous rentals, we've sort of been stuck with the old electricity system of the house. And because of that, we haven't really been able to accurately track with the latest technology how we're using our energy and at what times. Um, yeah, and then also just like a little thing, for instance, in the kitchen, I choose to use a little induction cooktop that I bought from IKEA instead of using the electric cooktop that came with the house, just to sort of cut down on those energy bills a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good point around the smart meters, and it's something that we're starting to really encourage all renters to do is to contact your energy retailer and ask for a smart meter. It is within your rights as a tenant to do that, and it's important that you do in the lead up to the Solar Sharer, a program that's going to be rolled out by the government on the 1st of July. So that will basically give anyone with a smart meter on the east coast of Australia 3 hours of free power in the middle of the day. And this is the first taste for renters of what it would be like to have access to really cheap bills, energy bills from rooftop solar. So I encourage you, Dale, to reach out to your energy retailer, give the heads up to your landlord and ask for that smart meter and let us know how you go. Have you tried to discuss this kind of thing, your lack of fire screens, your high energy costs, the inability to cool your house. Have you been able to reach out to your landlord or your real estate agent about that, or do you feel too uncomfortable?
Yeah, no, not really. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Talking with other renters I know, particularly sort of asking for these things instead of the usual repairs is sort of a bit out of the realm of possibility, it feels.
Mm.
Um, yeah, often uh, these kind of things, you're always thinking about when the landlord might increase the rent. So, you try not to bring up too many issues, and something like this just seems a little bit too out there, unfortunately.
So, do you think that landlords should ensure that the houses that they rent out meet an energy efficiency standard?
Yeah, definitely. I think anything to help us out would be huge. I know uh, the Residential Tenancy Act in New South Wales specifies showers and toilets have to meet certain requirements, but I don't believe there is any regulation for around electricity. And especially when you're stuck with the appliances that come with the house, such as the lighting, the kitchen stove, oven, range hood, air conditioning, all these things, they all add up uh, to the electricity bill you get at the end of the month. So,
Yeah, well, it's something that the minimum energy efficiency standards are being rolled out next March in Victoria, but not in New South Wales and not in other states either. So it's something that we'll be pushing Chris Minns, the Premier, for. There's actually a public consultation coming up on this very soon that we want all Solar Citizen supporters to make submissions to. So stay tuned for that one. We really need to secure those minimum energy efficiency standards in New South Wales for renters like Dale and your friends. If you could say one thing, Dale, to governments or decision makers about being a renter and your access to clean energy, what would it be?
yeah, I would definitely say don't forget about renters. Uh, policies are very important driving this sort of change, and there is a lot of focus, I feel, on first home buyers. And I realize, there's a large market of people like me renting who just want, the increased benefits that solar and these kind of things can bring to us.
Thank you so much, Dale, for your heartfelt call out. We're going to now talk to Rathana Chea. Ratana is the CEO of Multicultural Leadership Initiative. I had the opportunity to co-host a Climate Action Week forum with Ratana earlier this month, and he is a very eloquent advocate for the need to bring all our communities with us to ensure clean energy transition is equitable. Ratana has spent over 20 years working internationally to strengthen people, build organizations, and deliver impactful strategies across environmental sustainability, climate change, human rights, and technology. He's held senior leadership roles across Europe, Australia, Asia, with organizations including Greenpeace, Amnesty International, and the Sunrise Project. And Ratana, you're uniquely placed to really articulate why it is imperative that we solve solar for renters. So over to you.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. And thank you to the Solar Citizens team. Really grateful for this partnership in exploring what it means to actually make solar accessible and residential solar accessible to renters. Um, so a little bit about MLI, so the Multicultural Leadership Initiative. We are an organization that works on informing and empowering multicultural communities within Australia to become involved in the energy transition. And so far, just under 300,000 constituencies part of this movement, 58 languages, and we've trained over or just under 1,500 community members. And we are forming an ecosystem of roughly 79 organizations so far. And great. And then so the reason why we formed it to begin with and why this is a critical part of the conversation around residential solar, but the energy transition overall is that 1 in 4 Australians are actually of cultural mixed cultural heritage. 1 in 3 are culturally and linguistically diverse. 1 in 2 are non-Anglo-Celtic, and 1 in 2 also have a parent, at least one parent born overseas. What this translates to at a policy level, if you're reading and watching this, dear MPs out there, with great kindness, this means that 20 out of the 51 marginal electorates are actually Cal voter dependent. And so there's the potential to shift what this looks like for Australia in terms of our shift towards um, renewable energy. What's happening at the moment so far, though, is that we are in a space where Australia has had huge success within the solar rollout. Um, the challenge that we have, unfortunately, is that it's not always accessible to everyone, as Dale told in his shared in his story, but also is a story of many multicultural Australians. And the way I'm going to share this story is I'm going to talk about apples. And I know that's a little weird, but just bear with me. So if you think about this image, there are the tree, there's like different the height between the two edges of the tree are different. And in most scenarios, if you go to the next slide, when we're talking about this idea of inequality, we assume that everything is starting from a place of sameness and that that difference is somehow inherent later on. But actually, inequality starts at its very base. The way the system is designed, the way that someone is able to access, in this case, apples, more easily than others, is always going to form this foundation of inequality. That's sort of the structural pathway. Next slide. So what we're talking about when we're talking about access to apples, or in this case, access to rooftop solar, is that equality would be about recognizing the level playing field um, is the same for everyone. However, when we're talking about equity, we're talking about something entirely different. It's the difference between the two sides. So here we've got equality where if we just gave everyone a ladder, then everyone could access apples in theory. In reality, that's not the case. So if we were to say everyone is now able to access or could have solar on their rooftops, Dale's summarized it really well. The power imbalance between renters and landlords exists. There's also a power imbalance in terms of, particularly for multicultural communities, linguistic or language-based access. I've moved over 7 countries now, in each, and I have not been fluent in each of those countries. I am really sad to admit I don't know anything about Dutch language or Thai language or a few other countries I moved to. And so that there's already that imbalance, this assumption that we're all on an equal playing field when actually there's a language barrier, there's a structural barrier, and there's also a knowledge barrier. Next slide. And so what we're talking about here then is if there's already that difference between the orange and the blue in terms of the foundation point of accessibility to apples, then any system that would consider itself fair would really want to focus on that distance in the red arrow. And that's where equity comes into play. How do we create policies, practices, and access points which actually go beyond recognizing quote unquote a level playing field, but actually recognize that equality itself, equity itself, the idea that we are all engaged in a fair system is about acknowledging difference and accommodating for it, whether that difference is based on language or whether that difference is based on economics in terms of whether we are homeowners or renters. It's all the same story. And we're really, when we're talking about this idea of building a fairer Australia around the energy transition, what we're talking about really is, oh, we're going back to the slide here. What we're really talking about is building that into our story. There's a slide missing, but that's okay. And my final slide is gone. It's okay. Structural, financial, trusted messages, and representation. That was my last slide. So there you
There
go.
you go.
So they're the 4 pivot points of policy shifts that we need.
Thank you so much, Ratana, for explaining that very powerful, simple analogy, but really cuts to the heart of what this campaign is about. We've seen a big win with solar on rooftops around Australia, a big win with the battery rebate, but now we need to share that energy equity, that energy access to cheaper energy bills to solar for renters. So one of the main barriers is what economists call the split incentive problem. So the landlord owns the property and pays for the upgrades like solar panels or insulation and efficient appliances, but the tenant receives the savings through lower energy bills. So the investment and the benefit are split between two different people. That raises the key policy question. How do we motivate landlords to install clean energy and efficiency upgrades, even though they're not the ones who are going to get the daily benefit out of it? So, Solar Citizens wanted to better understand how renters, landlords, and the wider public think what they think about solving this challenge. So we ran a national interactive AI assisted conversation using the deliberative democracy platform Polis. We invited Australians to vote on different policy ideas and sentiment statements about how to unlock solar for renters. And you can see of the more than 700 people who participated, a quarter were renters, a third landlords, and the rest members of the wider public. Our goal was very simple. It was to identify where genuine shared support exists for solutions and also identify where opinions are divided. The really encouraging news is that we've actually found strong agreement across renters, landlords, and the wider public on 5 key practical solutions. So, Australians strongly support governments working together to deliver solar access for renters. The most agreed upon government-led incentive was that governments should introduce a tax incentive for landlords who install rooftop solar on a property they rent out. The most strongly supported government regulation was that minimum energy efficiency standards should apply for all rental homes. For new builds, the most popular statement was that all new apartments built to home rents and social and public housing should be energy efficient, all electric, and have rooftop solar. So, based on these results, we are recommending there needs to be a carrot and stick approach to solving solar for renters on freestanding homes. The stick being minimum energy efficiency standards, which is currently only moving forward in Victoria and the ACT. Currently, the federal government can't get agreement from the states for a national rollout of minimum energy efficiency standards. So there needs to be incentives for landlords and the state governments, for that matter, to support minimum energy efficiency standards and to support the expense that they will incur when they get rolled out. Queensland and Victoria currently have a small pot of rebates for landlords who want to install solar systems on rental properties, but there is no federal incentive that can be rolled out across the country. So that's why, there is no federal incentive that is currently rolled out across the country. So that's why we're proposing a federal tax incentive, specifically accelerated depreciation on installation of energy efficient appliances and rooftop solar and batteries. So landlords currently get depreciation, but for a $10,000 investment, it's less than $100 over 20 years. Accelerated depreciation would allow them to receive $500 a year for 5 years. So it's bringing that return on investment forward into the first 5 years rather than being spread out over 20 years. So it's cost neutral long term for the federal budget, but it's an incentive to get that private money moving to upgrade rental properties to benefit the tenants. To hear the landlord's perspective on all of this, we're going to bring in Thomas Griffin. Thomas lives in Sydney and rents out a property in Brisbane. In 2024, before the Queensland Solar for Renters rebate for landlords, Thomas installed a 6.6 kilowatt solar system on his Brisbane rental property. Welcome, Tom.
Hello, thank you.
So, Tom, what motivated you to install solar on your rental property? Oh, unfortunately, Tom's frozen.
About the renewable energy. Ooh, has it?
Yeah, no, you're back with us now. So what is motivated
Sorry.
you to install solar on your rental property?
So I'm pretty passionate about renewable energies and cleaning the environment, but I also wanted to make my place a bit more attractive for renters, and attract better renters that will stay there longer term rather than have a high turnover of people coming through.
And has it worked?
It has. I've had this property since 2020 and it's the same tenant in there the whole time.
Great. And what other energy efficiency improvements have you made, Tom?
When the solar went on, I put on a hot water timer. So to heat up the electric hot water, just a general electric hot water system. It only heats the water. I'm not exactly sure what they've got it set to, but generally it's between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. in either off-peak or when it's making the most amount of solar.
Great. So how have your tenants responded to having solar power?
I haven't heard anything from them about it specifically, but I think they must be happy because they keep renewing the lease.
That's a good investment for you then.
I think so, yeah. However, it's a lot of money to outlay. I do have another property that I'd like to do it to, but I don't think I will. Well, I may now because there's an incentive in Queensland, but if it was in another state, I probably wouldn't unless there was some sort of incentive to do so.
So, what do you think about having accelerated depreciation as an incentive for landlords?
That would definitely help for sure. Because at the moment, yeah, I'm getting it'd be under $100 a year for 20 years on that property. It just doesn't really scratch the surface. But um, if the government could come to the party, yeah, I'd definitely go for it then.
That's great to hear, Tom. I mean, I think landlords get a bad rap sometimes, but I'm sure there's lots of good landlords like you out there, Tom, that want to share the solar love. So thanks for sharing. Um, and stepping us through your experience. We need more landlords like you who want to make sure their tenants benefit from clean, affordable rooftop solar. So this is where we're now going to look at the solutions for apartments specifically. So New South Wales and Victoria have a solar for apartments program that provides funding for up to 50% of the cost to strata committees for installing rooftop solar. And I actually got a text message today saying this has been extended, this program has been extended to later this year, and they're specifically looking for apartments in Western Sydney around Parramatta. So please reach out to us if you need some help connecting with that scheme. But these are only for buildings with up to 50 or so apartments. That leaves out high rises, which can have up to 500 apartments per tower. The high rises like we've been featuring in the Electrify Walleye Creek program we run. So to solve for solar for apartments, we need a wider systemic approach. 90% of Polis respondents agreed that governments should establish urban renewable energy zones and use large or public roofs to provide shared solar power for renters nearby. So, urban renewable energy zones are designated urban areas that enable large commercial, industrial, and public rooftops to host solar backed by battery storage. With this cheap, clean energy shared locally through the distribution network with nearby homes, apartments, and renters. So while a high-rise building may only be able to meet about 5% of its energy needs with rooftop solar, installing solar on a large warehouse could generate an enormous excess of clean power with the potential to meet 500% or even 1,000% of the building's energy needs, which is why they can share it through the energy network to neighbouring homes and apartments. Overall, urban renewable energy zones have enormous potential to deliver benefits at scale in our towns and cities, improved grid performance, reduced carbon emissions, and lowered energy costs for all consumers. State governments, network service providers, retailers, businesses, and think tanks are all playing a turn to turn this concept into a real world solution. But households, consumers, and local governments, the stakeholders essential to making urban renewable energy zones projects equitable and community centered, are largely missing from this conversation. To address that gap, Solar Citizens and Nexa Advisory are launching a new project, Fast and Fair Urban Renewable Energy Zones, as a community-led, council-centered grid modernisation model. You'll be hearing more from us throughout the next 6 months on that project. But to sum up Solar Citizens' key policy recommendations across the board from our Solar for Renters Polis report, we've got government-led incentives, accelerated depreciation for landlords to install rooftop solar and energy efficiency upgrades on rental homes, government-led regulation, that's your minimum energy efficiency or performance standards for rental homes, and a system-wide solution, which is the urban renewable energy zones, plus clean energy mandates for all new builds, things like the activity centres in Victoria and the transport-oriented developments in New South Wales, and federal, state, and local collaboration, all levels of government working together to deliver these solutions. To reflect on everything we've heard so far and to give us an insight from the solar industry perspective, I'm pleased to welcome David McElrea, who's Chief Advocacy Officer with the Smart Energy Council. David leads national policy, government regulations, and industry engagement for the Smart Energy Council. He's had various government relations and strategic communications roles and built a a career at the intersection of politics, policy, and industry, with extensive experience in advocacy, stakeholder management, and public affairs. At the Smart Energy Council, he works on policy reforms across solar storage and electrification and is a leading voice on decarbonisation, energy affordability, and grid transformation. We look forward to hearing your views now, David, on how we can work together to progress solar for renters to achieve Australia's climate goals and deliver a more resilient and sustainable energy system for all of us. Over to you, David.
Oh, I'm horrified by seeing that big photo of myself. I'm just got to get over that before I start, Heidi. But I also want to start. I mean, I thought Dale and Talia's contribution was really powerful, and a reminder to everyone in this sector that it's real people at stake, and people, and there's the sort of consumer energy revolution we've seen in Australia, which, as you said, Heidi, is really Australia is leading the way in the world. It is terrific, but we have to crack the nut to make sure that everyone gets the benefit, particularly renters, but also people in apartments who may own or rent in an apartment as well. So I think that's got to be a key focus, and I know it is for Solar Citizens and it is for the Smart Energy Council, which is an industry body, but we're also a charity, and we work with groups like Solar Citizens. We have a strong equity view as well. So I think there's a few things, and really you've just spoken to one, which we strongly support, your proposal around urban zones. I love the idea, if you live particularly in our big cities, where you might often be co-located with an industrial, and Heidi, you and I live not that far from each other in Sydney, where there are industrial zones. So where that community shares in the benefits of electricity. It is, you'll be sad to know there are some, it is not as straightforward, but we are working, including with Solar Citizens and the sector, to try and see if we can come up with solutions and take them to government. Sad to know that one of the problems is split incentives, in that often those the people in industrial buildings and commercial buildings are tenants themselves. They're renters, right? So it's the same problem. There's a landlord, and we heard from Tom, like there's some incentives, but even more so in a big building like that, it's a huge capital upfront cost. So how do you incentivize that landlord? In that case, is probably a big property trust to invest in the solar on that commercial building. And then there's some connection issues, which I think are overplayed, but there are some, and then there's the way that the incentives are structured, which we need to work on. But the good news is we are working on it with Solar Citizens, with Nexa, with other bodies, to try and solve that. Not only for the benefit of renters, but really for the benefit of the Australian public, because if we could get more solar from all these rooftops, all this real estate, that would be good for everyone and mean cheaper power bills for everyone. Even if you don't have solar, your power bill goes down. So it's good news for everyone. I think probably the second thing I might briefly touch on is the idea of plug-in batteries. And this is an idea whose time has also possibly come, and this occurs in Europe, where you can get a battery, and the federal government, I think you talked about it as doing solar sharer from the 1st of July, where you can get up to 3 free hours of energy from the 1st of July a day, because we get too much solar in the system in the middle of the day. What that would do is that a battery would be able to be plugged in. You just plug it into your wall. You'd get your 3 free hours or cheap power, and you'd come home and you could run, Dale talked about his induction stuff. You could run that for free off your battery. So they can do it in Europe. There are some regulatory issues that need to be worked through in Australia. There are some concerns from the safety regulators and so forth about just some risks around it. You cannot get a battery through the Australian government's cheaper home battery program unless it's connected to a solar panel, so you can't get the benefit of the rebate. But you could spend like $1,000, $2,000, get something, we think. So we'd love to unlock that. That would be a sort of really clear, practical measure. And as we get more and more renewables in the system, we're already over 50%. A few years will be up even higher. You're drawing renewable energy too, so you're not you're not encouraging fossil fuel use. So I think there's a number of other things we want to work through on apartments and stuff like that. But those are two really clear, practical, immediate issues we think we can try and push forward to drive a better access to solar for renters.
That's great to hear, David. And I know that we're building a rooftop solar alliance with Pakistan,
Yep.
Taiwan, Japan, wider networks than that, which we're just securing in the lead up to COP31. And those nations are looking to us as world leaders
Absolutely.
in solar and storage. And if we can help unlock these things in Australia, they'll learn from that, and those impacts will be magnified around the world, especially in the lead up to COP31.
Yeah, as you know, Heidi, and we work with Solar Citizens, the rest of the world looks to Australia, but we need to also look to the rest of on our solar because we are the world leaders. But we need to look, I think, sometimes the rest of the world on the equity consider. And the fact is, Australia, a lot of people own and live in low density housing. So the focus has been on getting it on those rooftops, but we have to move to the next stage. And you don't need me to tell you. Tally and Dale told you why we need to do that, and I couldn't agree more.
That's great, David. Thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight. We really appreciate
No,
it.
thank you. It's my pleasure, and it's my privilege to hear from all the other speakers as well.
That's great. We look forward to working with the Smart Energy Council moving forward.
We
We're
always like working with Solar Citizen. It's terrific.
great. Thank you. We have a unique moment in the lead up to the budget, the federal budget, to draw attention to the Treasurer to draw the Treasurer's attention to the simplicity of introducing accelerated depreciation for landlords, investment in solar batteries and energy efficiency. We've all heard that the capital gains tax discount is being reviewed. We believe it's time for a modern tax law that delivers benefits directly to renters, the energy grid, and to climate as well. So I urge everyone on this webinar to please scan the QR code on the page now. Just pull out your phone and turn it onto photo mode. You can scan it right there. I'm opening it now. It goes straight to a 123 form. And when you get into that 123 form, um, it will that it's really easy to fill out, and you'll have a direct impact by filling that out right now and sending that off to the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, and the Expenditure Review Committee, and telling him that you want him to deliver a solar for renters tax incentive this May, this federal budget, and deliver a solution to Dale and Talia and all the many, many millions of renters like them across Australia. So if you're a renter or a landlord, we also invite you to join our Solar for Renters community circle. You will be able to provide feedback as we develop the campaign, and we will support you to become a voice, an active, loud voice to unlock solar for renters. Or if you want to be a quiet voice too, you can be that too, but you'll be part of a community working together. So you can scan the QR code on the screen there to sign up to be part of our Solar for Renters community circle, because it's the voices of people like you and Talia and Dale and David and Rathana, all of us on this call. When we bring our voices together and raise them together, that's when we can be heard. So I'm going to go back to you, Talia, because you've got some really inspiring stories we were really looking forward to sharing with you, with our audience tonight about the solar uprising. So take it away, please, Talia, if you're ready to go.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Heidi. So recently in February, I've been to university orientation weeks, and I've met so many people just like myself and like Dale who have felt like the responsibility of the clean energy future is kind of thrusted upon us, while also having to face cost of living pressures and just being locked out of so many solutions. And after speaking with them, I've had so many honestly really scary, like sad stories of the things people are doing to survive in the heat on those 40-degree days. Sometimes people even resort to putting containers and glasses of ice around their homes to try and cool it down, or putting a wet towel over a fan to really try and do something to get away from the heat. And it's really disheartening that these people feel like they have nothing they can do. But luckily, we kind of heard these stories and kind of told everyone the solutions that we're pushing for and ways that they can get involved. So we've actually now had hundreds of students join the Solar for Renters campaign and have formed Solar Uprising. So together, we're a movement of students and young renters who are finding ways to take action and have a say in Australia's clean energy future. So if you know anyone just like us who feel locked out and actually want to do something about it and are sick of just trying to cope with what we've been given, please invite them and join Solar Uprising because we're an amazing movement and we would love to see it grow.
Thanks so much, Talia. And we've got some questions in the audience chat. There's Adrian said he's using a phone so can't do the QR code. So if the team could please copy and paste the links to the action, to the treasurer, to the community circle, and to the Solar Uprising, joining Solar Uprising in the Q&A, that would be fantastic. So we can share that with the audience, and we'll also be doing a follow-up email, Adrian, tomorrow so that you can have all of those resources directly in your inbox and in everybody's inbox who signed up for the webinar tonight. We've also got a question around the possibility of linking capital gains tax discount access to meeting certain housing and efficiency ratings and affordable rent. Could this be part of the campaign? Well, sure. We think you're right, Mark, and we've had Tristan Edis, an energy expert, suggest something similar. So great minds think alike. We're going to continue to be pushing for this capital gains tax discount to be an opportunity for the government to change the tax laws around this, and we'll see how we go. Hopefully that's delivered by the Treasurer in May. That's what we're aiming for. If the campaign keeps going, we'll be looking at talking to the Treasurer more and seeing how we can refine the policy ask to suit what the government is willing to do and sort of meet us somewhere in the middle. But right now, we'll be continuing to push for that full accelerated depreciation, not just for the capital gains tax discount, because that only relates if you're selling the property. So that is the main thing that is in the questions. Unless there's any other questions, you've got a few more minutes now to those to ask. We will. You can find out about more aspects of all the campaign, download our Solar for Renters policy report and conversation report, sign our Solar for Renters petition and do more in these the links that have been shared here. And finally, if you are in a position to support the campaign financially, now is a great time to do so. Hundreds of supporters have donated to enable us to put on what we're calling our campaign accelerator push right now. We've got a big drive in the lead up to the May election, including we've spent quite some time today working out some really fun tactics for solar uprising and some direct advocacy to the treasurer, media, working with influencers, really coming at all angles to really get this noisy campaign in the air and make it undeniable for the treasurer to make this tax law change this May. So if you can donate, we still need to raise $15,000 to fund the rest of those tactics in the lead up to the May budget. So any donation, big or small, and it is tax deductible. So a bit like we want Solar for Renters to be. So if you can support it, your gift will make a huge difference to what we're able to achieve together. And you can jump online to solarcitizens.org.au/donate. So I'll just double check the questions. Any more questions coming through? No more questions. So I think that's it, people. We've actually finished a little early. We're right on giving you your night back. Get to your dinner, get to your gym workout, get to your kids. Get out there and get amongst it, but also please take the time to do the actions that we've shared with you tonight. And we really appreciate you coming together and being part of our community circle. A special thanks to all the speakers, Tom, David, Dale, Rathana, and of course, Talia, and all the team at Solar Citizens, Carolyn, everyone who's been behind pulling this webinar together and pushing the campaign forward. Good night.